Welcome to Walk the Talk. I am Shekhar Gupta in Velangiri Hills, in fact foothills on the outskirts of Coimbatore, and my guest today, somebody who sometimes is described as a monk on a motorcycle, but today the monk in a Land Rover.
No.
Sadhguru Jagi Vasudev, welcome to Walk the Talk.
It's no more a Land Rover, it's a Tata now.
That's your luck. But you are an unusual mystic. In fact, you describe yourself as an unusual mystic.
I think every mystic has been unusual, always. If he's usual, why would he be a mystic?
But when you describe yourself as an unusual mystic, and as an unusual among mystics, what makes you unusual?
The usual belongs to people who imitate. Only if you imitate somebody, you become usual. When you come out of your original nature, you are just natural.
But by definition, do mystics imitate?
No, but if scholars could imitate, sadhus and sannyasis could imitate because they're following a certain order. Mystic is someone who is coming from his inner understanding and inner experience, so there's no question of imitation. So he looks unusual, actually he is just natural. Because people are used to so much repetitiveness in everything, when somebody just comes out of his own nature, people think he's unusual.
So what makes you different? What sets you apart?
The only thing… see, I don't come from any scholarship. I have not read the Vedas or the Upanishads. I must confess I have not even read the Gita. The only thing…
not a confession many in your business want to make. I mean, I'm not guaranteeing everybody in your business has read them, but they all claim they have.
The only thing that I know is, I know this piece of life absolutely, from its origin to its ultimate. I know only this piece of life. If you know this piece of life absolutely, you almost know everything that's worth knowing, because looking inward, nothing else.
Tell us a little bit about your experiences. You started as a regular guy.
Even now I'm very regular.
Except maybe the beard and the…
Beard is a very regular thing. It grows on all men. It's unfortunately, people think this is irregular, but people have cut it and shaved it in different ways. That's irregular. This is the way nature made you.
So would you rather that all men had…
No, this is not a prescription. I was just joking with you. This is not a prescription that I'm not trying to make a fashion statement or something. All I'm saying is, when you make your system very sensitive, when you make your system work at its peak, then everything matters. Even the smallest disturbance to the system makes a difference. It's like you're driving your Maruti to the office, it doesn't matter in what condition it is. You want to be on the F1 track, now you have to keep your machine in a different way. So if you want to explore other dimensions of life…
That's interesting. How do you… what do you mean by… the implication is that you have yourself, your mind and body on the F1 track.
Yes.
F1 track of what, and what does it mean to be there?
So if you can use this system just as a biological entity, just for eating, sleeping, reproducing and dying one day. Or you could use this system as a ladder to the divine, in the sense, you can use this system as a stepping stone to go beyond. So if you're using this system to explore dimensions beyond your present level of experience, then you have to keep it in a certain way. Then how you eat, how you sit, how you stand, how you breathe, everything becomes relevant to you. The whole system of yoga is based on this. Why so much significance is being given?
And then why are you on F1 track? we in the rat race should be on F1 track. You are cool, you're a realized master.
Don't you think F1 is cool?
You have no issues in life. You've sorted it out. And you're helping people like us sort it out.
See, there's nothing to be I mean, there's nothing to sort out in life. It is the mess is created by you, so you have to sort out. I am not teaching people how to sort out their lives.
Right.
I'm teaching people how not to mess it.
So tell us a little bit about your early days.
Early days… See, when I was… one thing about me was, since I was 3–4 months of age, I'm talking about a young infant. Even as an infant, what happened around me, things that happened around me, simple things, I'm not talking about some earth-shaking event. Simple things like what color of saree my mother was wearing, what she was talking to somebody, I was in the crib. I remember all that even today. So my memory was such that somehow it set me apart because I carried information which other children wouldn't probably.
Right.
So I would say how I was thinking when I was 5 years of age, I think I still think the same way. Either I never was a child or never grew up, whichever way. So it set me apart and I started looking at life in a different way. So I was a skeptic, nothing made any sense to me. I never entered a temple, you know. If my family was not very religious, but once in a way they go to a temple. Even if they go to the temple, when I was just 5 years of age, I have questions. If they couldn't answer the questions, I won't enter the temple. They never got to answer the questions, so I never went into the temple. So this made me extremely skeptical about everything, which naturally made me ask all kinds of questions. One thing is, I never let myself be identified either with the family or with the culture or the religious process that was happening around me, or anything for that matter, which kept me looking and looking in a certain way. When I was just 11 years of age, just by chance I happened to learn a simple process of yoga, and I kept the practice up. And later on I finished my university, I got into business and I was doing well for myself. To be peaceful and happy was never an issue for me.
What kind of business? Poultry farming, I believe, once?
Yes, I got into this mainly because I had dreams of traveling around the world on my motorcycle, so I thought I'll do some kind of business which will give me enough money and I can wind up the thing and later on travel.
Right.
So at that time the poultry industry was in a boom, so I decided to go for that. And from the scratch I started this. My father was a very known physician in the town and for him it was a no-no thing. He said, how will I tell anybody that my son is raising chicken? So I had to do it all on my own and it came up well, I made money. Then somehow I got into construction industry, then I got into various other businesses. But then on a certain afternoon, between two business meetings when I had nothing to do, I just rode up Chamundi Hill. This is so for, for all the young boys in Mysore.
Right.
If you have nothing to do, you go up Chamundi Hill. Right. If you want to test your motorcycle, you go up Chamundi Hill. If you want to meditate, you go up Chamundi Hill. If you want to gossip, you go up Chamundi Hill. Chamundi Hill is the place.
Right.
So between two business meetings in the afternoon, I just went to Chamundi Hill. This was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I just went and sat there. I parked my motorcycle, climbed up and just went and sat on a rock which I knew very well, a huge rock, and my eyes were still open. My eyes were still open and till that moment, I always thought this is me.
Right.
Suddenly I did not know which is me and which is not me. What was me was just all over the place. That sounds ridiculous and absolutely illogical, but that was my experience and I thought this lasted just for 5 to 10 minutes, but when I came back to my normal senses, about 4.5 hours had passed. I was sitting right there. For the first time in my adult life, there were tears in my eyes. Me and tears were just impossible. But tears were happening to such a point, my shirt was wet. I was just completely blissed out. I was somehow, every cell in my body was bursting with ecstasy for which I had no words.
So you went through a process of realization?
Whatever you want to call it.
Without the sadhana?
That's what I said. I started my yoga at the age of 11 and for the next 13 years, without a single day's break, I did this yoga. I was not given to such discipline usually, but somehow this yoga happened as if it was happening from within me, not like I was doing it. without a single day's break. It happened for 13 years. It doesn't matter where I was. If I was trekking in the mountains, it happened. If I was in a party, it happened. Wherever I was, it always happened. I kept it up.
Yeah, and you think that led to this realization or…
Definitely.
Or this discovery?
It's based on that that I formulated various systems where every human being can experience
Because your
that.
literature describes you as a realized master.
Realized, yes.
Yes. And…
The only distinction between one human being and the other is all of us have the same possibility. Either it is realized or not. That's the only question.
But in your case, it happened not necessarily with sadhana, going to the hills, praying for years.
See, there is a sadhana.
Growing a beard.
See whether
You know,
that happens even if you don't
yes.
do anything.
Renunciation.
No.
You did not renounce your family or family
That's
life.
what I said. I never got identified with anything.
Right. As you went through this experience and as you evolved into what you are, you did raise a family.
Yes.
You did bring up a daughter.
Yes. She's turning 18.
She's turning 18 and you didn't give up anything and go away in the hills or someplace or… you
No,
never thought of it?
I have embraced a million-strong family.
Yes.
I have not given up anything.
So that's what I was saying, that your mother would be very proud of you because you have a family of more than 1 million devotees and now a wonderful center here in Vilangiri foothills, but also one coming up in Tennessee,
Yes.
America.
We are coming up with a large center in Tennessee.
1,200 acres.
See, Tennessee of all the places.
Because Tennessee is very much the heart
Yes,
of the
it
Bible
is
Belt.
it's a Bible belt.
So you'll
We're
be
doing
dismissed
very well there.
as a cultist, as a strange guy, a Rastafarian, all kinds of things.
See, the word cult is
cultist, most of all.
cult is very freely used word. But one thing that one mistake that repeatedly spiritual teachers have done around the world is they want to form a community of their own,
Right.
a world of their own. That's never been my thing. My thing is I'm always encouraging and bringing people to embrace the world, not to become a separate island of your own. Because what's the point creating a world of your own? There's really no point. And after all, the Creator's creation is wonderful. You don't have to create something. We have a center, that's different. But creating a community and a city is a different thing. I never have such intentions and that always leads to isolation and kind of freakish…
And if not the world, you've created a little domain, and if not your own, maybe one for the Creator, which is where we go next now, your Dhyanalinga temple. So Sadhguru, this is Dhyanalinga.
Yes.
The temple you built. I talked about building not a world or domain for yourself, but one for the Creator. Tell us about this. It took you a long time doing it. And this was also some kind of an inspiration.
See, what we refer to as Dhyanalinga is the very essence of yogic sciences. This temple is not created for worship or ritual.
Right.
This is purely for meditation.
In fact, there is no worship or ritual.
There is no worship,
prasad,
no
aarti,
ritual, nothing, no.
No chanting.
No.
No.
It's in total silence always.
Right.
Nobody speaks inside the temple, it's always in silence. See, all these buildings that you see here, they are not standing here because of the strength of its material.
Right.
It is all brick, lime and mud. There is no cement, there is no steel in these structures.
I see.
And they are not standing here because of the strength of the material, but because of the perfection of the geometry.
Right.
When you create a building with concrete or steel, there is a tussle between the gravity and the building. One day the gravity will win anyway.
Right.
Here there's no tussle, they're in… they're in proper harmony.
You've designed these.
Yes, they're in proper harmony, they're in relaxation, there's no tension. I would say the buildings themselves are meditating, that's how they are made. We're using the gravity to make the buildings stand.
Your talk is so contemporary all the time. It reminds me of something you said at the World Economic Forum, Davos, where I heard you speak. You said that you now need contemporary wisdom in contemporary times.
Isn't it? Why is it that people think that 2000 years ago or 5000 years ago, human beings were more intelligent than what they are today? It's a shame.
because we identify wisdom as ancient. They go together. Ancient
So there can be no wise in the present. So somewhere we believe people of the past were more intelligent than us.
But wisdom should be wisdom. Why should it change? Why should it change with time?
That's what I'm
Why
saying.
ancient wisdom? Why contemporary wisdom? Wisdom should be
See,
wisdom.
wisdom may be contemporary or ancient because our life situations keep changing, and how you respond to that also has to change. So I would say wisdom has to be contemporary. Otherwise, if what you did, something that was wonderful 10,000 years ago, if you do it today, it could be ridiculous because it could be totally out of sync with what's happening now.
Give me an example, or a couple of examples.
Any number of rituals we are doing. For example, many superstitions that are here today were all wonderful things at one time. They're out of time. For example, you know, in India, if a cat crosses a street, people park their cars even today. You know why this happens? If you trek in these mountains, if a tiger comes or any big cats come, like a panther or a tiger, it's a natural instinct for them. Whenever they cross an open space, after crossing the open space, they'll sit there at the edge of the space, look back and cover their tracks. This is a natural instinct in the cat. So if you're walking on a forest pathway, if you saw a big cat crossing, he will be sitting there and you don't walk straight into him. You wait, because he sits there for a minute, checks his tracks and goes on. This is about big cats, not about a house cat, not when he's crossing a highway and you're sitting in a car.
So that's how superstition came into being.
Yes, most of the superstitions at one time were scientific facts for people who lived in those times.
Right.
But we continue the same thing in exaggerated ways today, it becomes a silly thing to do.
That's what you mean by contemporary wisdom.
Yes.
And you know, the other thing that intrigues me, we need many hours of talking about all this, but another thing that intrigues me, you talk of life as a celebration, right? And yet you say for most people death is a big relief.
Even if you're having a wonderful party, don't you want to close it sometime?
Well, but you know, I may think, oh God, it's over too soon, where is the next one? Why should it be a relief?
We don't want it to be over too soon, but you want to end it somewhere, isn't it? So when you feel extremely happy, you know, you feel like ending everything.
Right, but you don't see a contradiction between the two things. Life being a celebration,
no, not at all.
Need to celebrate life, and death being a big relief to most people. In fact, the exact line was, death comes as a big relief to most people.
Yes. Right now, most people are suffering their lives one way or the other. They're carrying their lives as a burden. For them also it's a relief, but if one becomes overburdened with ecstasy, then also he wants to dissolve it, because he's seen it all.
Right.
So if you have not seen enough of life, you're hankering for life.
Right.
If you've seen it all, then you want to pass on to the next.
Is that why you are so different? You know, you ride a motorbike, you wear designer dark glasses, you drive a Land Rover, you dance at disco parties. Is it just a part of your brand image?
No.
Or is it to say you can be normal and spiritual?
Say, spiritual is normal. If you're not spiritual, you are handicapped.
Yeah. Sadhguru, tell us about this place. This looks like such a wonderful, cool, calm, serene place.
So this is called as Tirthakund. Here what you see there is a solidified mercury linga.
Solidified mercury?
Yes. A linga means an ellipsoid. Why an ellipsoid is, the core of every galaxy is an ellipsoid, which is a common knowledge today.
Right.
But if your energies reach to a very highest peak or pitch, once again it becomes an ellipsoid. That means the beginning of the universe starts as an ellipsoid and the dissolution also happens as an ellipsoid. So an ellipsoid is seen as a doorway to the beyond.
And the other thing that intrigues me is that the size of these rocks remind me of the pyramids. I don't think I've seen bigger rocks.
Pyramids were built for the dead, this is for the living.
I think that's a brilliant note to conclude on, Sadhguru. Wonderful to chat with you. I know that we need many hours to go into more complex issues, but before that, I have to be a little less illiterate about those to come back to you.
Come and walk sometime, no talking. Let's walk in the mountains sometime.
Always ready to listen.
शरीरं सुरूपं यथा वा कलत्रं यशश्चारुचित्रं धनं मेरुतुल्यं गुरोरङ्घ्रिपद्मे मनश्चेन लग्नं ततः किं कलत्रं धनं पुत्रपौत्रं